1, 2, 3, yeah! This is Amari Purple Talk. Yes. Welcome to episode 97 of Amari Purple Talk, a podcast where I share my thoughts on the Prince musical singularity. I'm Richard Cole, Imaginationist, comic book myth builder, and the Vic Sage of Funk. Thank you once again for tuning in. Please leave your comments in the comments section below, and please download on your favorite podcast platform. If you're listening on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And please continue to send your questions or topic suggestions for Amari Purple Talk. And how you can do that is by clicking the link in the show notes below, either the website link for Amari Communications or by following me on Twitter at RichardCole_now using the hashtag Amari Purple Talk. And your topic or question might just be read in a future episode. All right, and with that out of the way, let's get started. And we're going to start with, of course, the Prince Twitter thread. That's hashtag Prince Twitter thread. It's still rolling along through the month of July. Spotlight is on the Jill Jones Paisley Park album. We're now halfway through, starting on the second side of the album. And leading off with that this week will be on July 20th, the track All Day, All Night by At Artificial Age. July 21st, For Love by At Arthur R. And July 22nd, My Man by DJ UMB. So that will be the song lineup for this week. So check it out. Check out the previous threads as well, including my contribution, 77 Bleecker Street. So head over to Twitter, hashtag Prince Twitter thread, and follow along. Also, regarding the YouTube video, I was going to do one, The Truth, the vinyl versus the CD. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and just do that on next week's episode of Amari Purple Talk. Just haven't been satisfied with the video quality of the video comparison, or I should say CD vinyl comparisons I've done in the past, or say my record store day haul video. So kind of want to work out some kinks with the webcam and stuff like that and get some better quality video going with that. So won't have that coming up. Also, well, I might still do one for the last three Jackson's albums. Again, my heart just hasn't been in it because Michael Jackson fans deserve better. But I'll still do maybe a video for that. It just won't be webcam based. But for The Truth, vinyl versus CD, just going to bump that to next week's episode and no webcam video of that. So with that out of the way, we're going to jump into the main topic of this episode, which is The Time, 40th anniversary. It's been released. We've got our copies, and actually got it the day of release. You know, a lot of things that I've pre-ordered on Amazon have been either delayed a day or two, some a few days. But this is kind of like the Amazon of old, where it's like, oh, day of release, it shows up. So cool. So got a chance to, check out the packaging, got a chance to listen to it. While I was waiting for it to arrive, I also had a chance to listen to it on streaming. Now, this is not an official remaster or not even a new mix of the album. The album has been remastered for streaming. I've been listening on Quobuzz, and I love the results. I was actually going to renew my subscription to Tidal. To me, the Tidal was the best out of all the streaming services as far as just the sound quality and the resolution of a lot of the albums that they have on Tidal. But I discovered just watching somebody on YouTube talk about Quobuzz and how they had like 24-bit, 16-bit, 20-bit, just real high resolution CD quality. So now this isn't an ad for Quobuzz. It's just my personal preference for that streaming service. It is a bit pricey, but to me it was worth it. So I decided not to renew my Tidal subscription. The week that I did sign up, Apple kind of stepped their game up a little bit. And some things I've been satisfied. They have improved on the quality with Apple Music. So, but Quobuzz is really just my kind of streaming mainstay for all things music for the moment. But yeah, listening to this debut album with the remaster on streaming, whew, amazing. We'll kind of do some of the comparisons in just a few. So for my automobile listening pleasure, I've been checking out this album. Just great listening to it. But we're going to discuss the vinyl today. Or, well, like I said, some of the comparisons anyway. So as far as a CD release, there are no plans for CD. I'll kind of get into that a little bit later as well. But as for the vinyl, like I said, it arrived on time, day of release. The packaging was kept secure, no problems with the cover, no dings or anything like that. Great packaging as far as it being shipped to me, so that was great. The LPs themselves both came in separate anti-static sleeves, and that was a huge plus. Back in the day, vinyl was my main choice, or only choice, until CDs started coming along, and I gave up the vinyl for CDs and cassettes. And, just over the last few years, just decided to get back into vinyl. Like I said, I lost like literally half my original vinyl collection. So in the, say, 5 years or so since I've been getting back into it, managed to recover about 80% of what I had lost. And, quite a few new things here and there also. But now getting back into vinyl, as opposed to being a teenager back in the day, I'm taking better care of vinyl. So I'm getting into things like album cover, the plastic sleeves, being aware of anti-static sleeves. Because even a brand new vinyl, you'll still have dust that's on it. Like I said, I'll kind of get into some of the nuances in just a moment, but it arrived well. So, these things can happen if you're buying vinyl, whether it's new or used. You can still have dust clinging to that vinyl, so make sure you use an anti-static brush when cleaning your vinyl. So for me, yeah, that's the only plus for the packaging. So instead of kind of getting into the negatives right away, I'm first going to discuss the things that I like about this reissue, and then I'll get into some of the dislikes for it, and my personal views on what the reissue should have been. All right, so we're going to start with the likes. And for me, it sounds great. The vinyl sounds amazing. And so I'll probably do a maybe new vinyl versus original vinyl to kind of hear some differences. There are subtle nuances in both the streaming and the new vinyl that I haven't heard in the original vinyl or on the CD. So just little, the vocals, this great separation in the vocals. Even though you could always kind of hear Prince in the background, you can kind of hear him as well as some of the other background singers on some of the tracks, especially during certain fade outs or just certain parts throughout the songs. That it's refreshing. It's like listening with a fresh set of ears practically. And I love that about albums where if I listen to certain albums, I never hear really the same thing twice, meaning that I'll always find something very subtle in the mix every time I hear it and go, whoa, didn't realize that was there. It's like listening to a fresh album. It sounds new again to me. And what I mean by that is that to me, this album sort of got lost in the shuffle just due to the weight of what time is it. And even say, Ice Cream Castle's era with Jungle Love and The Bird, that we just kind of took this album for granted. So it's like, oh yeah, first album, it's great. But hearing it now, here's the thing. Usually with certain reissues, it takes you back. If you haven't heard it for a long time, or if you haven't had a copy of something for a long time, you get it, you hear it, and music just automatically takes you back. I don't really get that with this album, which isn't a bad thing, but it's very fresh. It sounds new. So with the whatever digital transferring they did for the vinyl, whatever remastering they did for streaming, it gives this album sort of a fresh take on, its musical life, and hopefully as people rediscover this album or revisit it, you're in for a treat. And like I said, I'll get into a few things in regards to this album's place in history, but I'm glad that this is getting out. It's the 40th anniversary of it, and it's getting a fresh take. Getting into the second disc. Now, when I first heard that, the second album or the second LP is just going to be the single edits of it, I was a little disappointed. It's like, yeah, I don't really want to hear the singles. I like the full body of work of the original album. And I guess that's with all sort of Prince related things. There was once upon a time when that, say, 45 version of, say, She's Always in My Hair, or even Erotic City, that was the only thing that was existing, at least to us anyway, when you went to the record store. You would buy those, and it's like you thought that's all that there is. And then, sometime later you run across the 12-inch version, and you go, oh. And then that sort of just becomes your default. So that charm or that newness of the original 45 single, it kind of gets lost or gets pushed aside in favor of, oh, this is the, sort of the director's cut of the track. And that was my feeling towards this second LP. Like, I'm not really going to be into it. But something hit me yesterday. And, well, yesterday being Saturday as I'm taping this on Sunday. As I'm driving, and, I've managed to listen to the whole original album. So now I'm getting into the single edits of the tracks. And something just kind of occurred to me while I'm listening is that, once upon a time, yeah, you turn on the radio and this was all you heard for a while, because usually back then you'd get the single and then a few weeks later, the album drops or whatever, and then you get the album version of a track. But even after that, you still turn on the radio and they're still playing the 45 version 9 times out of 10. So while I didn't get that feeling of nostalgia from listening to these sort of like, new transfers or remasters of the original album. The single edits, on the other hand, were the thing that took me back because, again, we have this album in existence, and that's what we've lived with. We've lived with the myth of this album for so long that I forgot when this was an actual new band. This was, we didn't know anything about Moore's Day or the time at one particular point. We're just hearing these songs on the radio. And, that anticipation you get with any new artist, like that field of discovery and that sort of question of, am I going to stick with this band or this artist for the long haul? And it was those 45 single edits that kind of brought it back to then. Many of you out there, if you had a chance to listen to the roundtable for the previous Prince Symposium, the roundtable discussion on the time, that was myself along with Michael Dean, who was the moderator of the panel, Mark Wiggins, Eloy, Prince's friend, and Ricky Wyatt. A lot of that was, that discussion was our just initial, reactions. How, we were there back in 1981 when that album first dropped. So for a lot of us, there's that history of, how people were reacting to it as it was unfolding in real time. And then you had people like Prince's friend that kind of discovered the time a little bit later. But, it didn't affect his enjoyment of that album, But I was immediately, taken back to that period where these songs were in rotation on the radio, where, Get It Up and Cool were these major hit R&B singles. And, Girl and Oh Baby, they were getting radio play as well. And like I said, just remembering just how people were reacting to it and the whole mystique behind the album, who is this? And, is this Prince's cousin and all this other stuff? And, it's a fascinating ride. And actually there's a charm to the single edits. Again, we're into, whether we're musicians or just Prince fans or Time fans, and we love the long form of the album, the long version of Get It Up, the long version of Cool, the long version of The Stick. But there's a subtlety and there's a nuance to these singles that work because, that was, we're in a singles market now, really, with streaming, especially these younger artists. It's all about the single. And they do drop albums, but then it's like, God, they're 20, 25 songs long or whatever. And you really don't get to really digest it in a streaming world. Or you don't really get it's a post-thriller kind of a world where it's like, okay, you're trying to make every single song on the album a hit, but you're not really working on making an album or why you're making an album. The art of making an album since, say, 1966 to about maybe 2000 and something, there was, or let's just say pre-Thriller. So really before 1984, so from 66 to 84, there was a subtlety. There was an art, literal art to putting together an album and the sequencing of songs. It wasn't about necessarily making this song a hit record. It's just that, does this song fit with the rest of the songs in the album? Does it work? Does it flow? And if you're talking about a band especially, their ability to show their musical chops on it, which is something it's kind of a lost art today. But back then, yeah, you still had to promote that single, and you still had to kind of grab people within 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, or whatever to sell the album. And I love the way that the singles are mixed. It's something I didn't appreciate at 16 then, because it's just like, oh, I got to have the album and I want to hear the long version of it, the whole thing. But now it's like listening to, cool kind of fade out in part one, and then it goes into part two with, where it fades in on part two. The single version of After High School, it works. It totally works as a single. Get It Up works as a single. The Stick, I probably have to revisit, because to me, my first contact with that song was the album version. And I think they kind of released the single like, long after the album was getting ready to fade out, so to speak. Kind of in between it kind of going away and then the anticipation for what time is it coming out. So that one might be a little different. I might have to re-listen to that to see if I have the same feel for it as the other single edits on it. But that was a definite surprise for me. So I'm now cool with the fact that the second LP is the single edits. So overall, as far as the sound, now based on what type of turntable speaker system you have, I believe you'll enjoy the new vinyl. I believe you will enjoy it a lot. For me, I'm currently listening on an old sound design component set. Got it from the Goodwill. And that was, when I just started rebuilding my vinyl. And, I don't have the money to get like a $500, turntable and $600 speakers to go with it. So just went to the Goodwill, got me a sound design little component set, and it's cool. It does what it does, and it sounds nice. So, but like I said, depending on what you have, I know a lot of people are buying those sort of those little suitcase looking kind of turntables, and those can be okay. But again, like I said, it's how you care for your vinyl, as well as the type of needle. I'm going to have to look into what I have as far as this one and maybe replace it with, I believe, a diamond stylus needle. And you get better life out of your vinyl, especially after about 100 plays or so. You probably get some better life out of it. And that's another difference between, I would say, the new vinyl and the old, because, I've had a copy that's probably been played hundreds of times already. Still in great condition, but been played a lot. And here, managed to kind of just listen maybe once. Had to play After High School again, and I'll get to the reason why in a minute. But again, like I said, just based on what type of turntable speaker system you have, you'll enjoy this vinyl. Now, I used to have a Panasonic component set back in like high school, early college years. And on that, I used to love that deep Oberheim bass synth, that extended note that closes After High School. And with the CD, I never got that feeling listening to it. It just leaves me feeling flat, because I'm like, wait for it. And it's like, it's not there on the CD. Even kind of streaming at first, it wasn't there. And I've missed that, and nothing has ever compared. Even this system playing the original vinyl, and sadly, even with the new vinyl, I don't get it. But the remastered streaming, it's there. It's there. It's just like, it's not like the 808s where everything just vibrates, heavily. It's a subtle bass vibration, and it's just so smooth. And I think it was mixed that way intentionally. I want to assume that's the case. But listening to it streaming, both, earbuds or whether you're in the car, whatever, it's there. It is so there. And it just works. It just works. So I was glad to hear that again. So maybe that might be the one nostalgic feeling I have for this remaster, is that the Oberheim bass synth is mixed properly with the remaster. And while it doesn't sound like that I have any dislikes for the new remaster, or excuse me, the new reissue, I do. There may be some small dislikes, but I would say one major dislike. No, they're major dislikes. I'll put it that way. But it's no reflection on the band. It's no reflection on Morris Day. Like I said, I'll get into this in a moment. It's just in how Rhino Records decided to package this album. So my first dislike is going to be there's no gatefold sleeve. Because if you're housing two LPs, it looks better, it works better if you have the gatefold cover. And they didn't do that for this. And I think that was just, to be honest, I think that was just them being cheap with it. This is supposed to be a 40th anniversary release. And I know that there are other records or albums by other artists, both, major and minor, that have had releases that have gotten much better respect than this vinyl packaging here. And I mean, they've even done stuff as recent as Black Music Month and Record Store Day, which this Time reissue was a part of their Black Music Month campaign, both June and, well, actually they went from June and July to do this. Like I said, there's other things I've seen that's had better packaging and even more extensive liner notes. And you've heard me mention on a previous episode that even the Monkees have gotten better respect on their reissues than this album. And that's not me being biased about the Time, because I am a huge fan of the Time. But let's face it, there have been some kind of rumblings throughout the Prince musical singularity regarding the state of affairs with the Prince estate that have been ongoing. And granted, yes, you have Michael Howell, and then you have the guy that used to run Spotify. I'm drawing a blank on his name now. But kudos to what they've done as far as what they've been able to put out with Prince, whether it's the 1999 Super Deluxe, Sign of the Times. Hell, Welcome to America. I'm so looking forward to that deluxe set, with the vinyl, the CD, the Blu-ray, and yeah, Prince is of a caliber that he definitely deserves that type of attention to detail. But what's unique about the Prince musical singularity, so to speak, is that you have artists like The Time, you have Sheila E., you have Vanity 6, you have Apollonia 6, you have Jill Jones, you have all of these, Madhouse, you have The Family, to where I think they deserve a little something. It's not just like, oh, let's just slip this out for a reissue and make a quick buck, or just here's some vinyl, they'll buy it. No, I think that maybe not every protege deserves a super deluxe edition. And hey, that's no offense to people that might want that Carmen Electra super deluxe, but no, not everybody deserves that, or it's not necessary for each and every release, but there are significant releases. Whereas definitely, yeah, the first two Time albums for certain, maybe at least, if nothing else, Sheila E's first one deserves better respect. Um, the Family, because of its unique place in Prince music history, and there's a fan base that will pay for this, that will support this, and you'll make money. Even if you did a limited edition, there's enough of us out there that would purchase it. Or if it's just available on the Prince Estate's website, we'll be there to support it and purchase it. So to me, Rhino Records really dropped the ball as far as the packaging of it. Again, like I said, there's artists that, I'm sorry, that's nowhere near the caliber of, say, talent or whatever compared to the time, that have gotten better reissues. And I don't even think they've had as many hits either, whether it's just R&B or whether it's pop or whether it's whatever. But I really blame Rhino Records for not really engaging with the Prince Estate, other than, hey, can we have permission to release this? Not involving them fully. And like I said, I don't know what Michael Howe or Troy Carter, that's the guy that also helps to run the vault. It's not any slight to them, but like I said, the failure at whoever's behind the desk at Rhino Records for not fully engaging them or not fully consulting them on this, for damn sure not originally including Morris Day into this, where he had to get on social media and, get his lawyers on the case to get representation at the 0 hour. When it's too late to kind of recall it and repackage it and add some stuff to it, add bonus tracks, whatever, some liner notes, some commentary, something, a little paragraph by Morris, if nothing else. Whether it was too late to do that, where they brought him in at the 0 hour when it was too late to change anything, to, to where, yeah, he tried his best to, the interviews, amazing interviews. It would have been nice to have a package that stood to the level of cool that Morris had brought to those interviews, whether it was on the Questlove podcast, even the Rhino Records podcast, was cool. It was just enough. But other, Rolling Stone interviews, and like I said, the Questlove podcast, it would have been great, like I said, to have a reissue to stand up to the publicity that was done at the 0 hour. Because, Morris wanted his damn respect, and I'm glad he got it with that. So my thing is, they better represent on the What Time Is It 40th anniversary reissue. Now you got Morris into the mix. Let's make that one something special. Other than, okay, here's a nice piece of vinyl. Great, again, all the things that I love about this reissue. I'll take it. I kept my pre-order, because the minute that Morris said that they didn't bring him in on it or consult him, I was ready to cancel my pre-order until, an hour or 2 hours later, then it was like, hey, my people reached and got in touch with Rhino. Rhino reached out and started bringing him in. I was like, cool, I'll go ahead and keep the pre-order and I'll enjoy what I've got. And I'm glad. Like I said, I'm not disappointed. And I even like the second LP, even though I was prepared not to like that part of it at first. But like I said, those are my two grievances about the release with it. And probably my final dislike is that there's not a CD remaster with liner notes. If you weren't going to put it on the vinyl, it could have worked with the CD. So I don't know. I'm hoping that somewhere down the road that maybe, if nothing else, we'll get like a CD version of this, and that can be packaged with a good set of liner notes on it. I'm hoping so. I don't think it'll happen, but I hope so. That would, to me, would salvage or make up for just what we've gotten with this reissue on it. And then that's going to bring me to my final topic, which is going to be my personal view on what the reissue should have been. And to start off, what it should have been a vinyl CD release with a remaster of the original album. And then, along with that, liner notes with anecdotes from everyone involved in the recording. So, whether you have Dr. Fink that played on a track or two, or Lisa Coleman that played on a track or two, or did some background vocals. Morris, definitely bring him in, because he was the drummer on most of those tracks. Anyone that was involved with the actual recording of it. And have Morris Day be the main curator of this, as well as the other 3 Time albums. And that is, What Time Is It?, Ice Cream Castles, and Pandemonium. Have him decide, hey, this will be cool. Here's some stuff, some demos that I've had that, here's something that was intended for, but we didn't, me and Prince decided not to put it out, or decided to, we were going to put this on the album, but, we swapped it out with 7779311. Something along those lines would work. Whatever live recordings that might be in his possession. I remember right around Jesse Johnson's first album, when he was doing the promotions of that, there was one interview, I think it was Black Beat, might have been, or it might have even been Right On Magazine, but there was something where he was talking about, he had, some live albums, not live albums, but live recordings from, the Time tours and stuff. And I think he might have mentioned like some unreleased stuff as well, which at that time, he might have been talking about the studio version to The Bird, which, yeah, that should see the light of day. That should get an official release somewhere, because it's that funky. But yeah, just get, have Morris be the curator of it and get his input on, what bonus tracks might be available. What live recording can you bundle with it? And if you did want to do sort of like a deluxe version, then yeah, a remaster of the original album, bonus material containing tracks with Alexander O'Neal's lead vocals, And it sounds like there may have been just more than one. Spoilers, if you haven't read Dwayne Tudhall's Parade, Sign of the Times era studio sessions, it's been out for a while, so go get it. But this isn't a huge major spoiler if you're just interested in just Prince. But around that time, he was trying to either come up with something for the family or for Jill Jones' album. So he pulls out this track called Rough, which originally had Alexander O'Neal's vocals, which Alexander O'Neal was originally tapped as the lead singer for the time. Then negotiations fell apart, and so history shows Morris Day is now the lead singer of the time. But apparently, based on Morris's interview on the Questlove podcast, that Alex may have done more than one track, or they did a couple of things with Alex and then the negotiations fell through. So whatever they have for that, include that. Also include Prince's lead vocals. Now here's the thing. We all know, Prince was the mastermind, behind it all. He created the concept for the time. He created the songs. He played most of the instruments and everything. We know that. So there shouldn't really be a debate on, well, Prince did everything, so blah, 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 blah. We know that. But to put this in this context, it does put Prince front and center as a testament to his genius, and to show how something like that works, how it got from his brain to record store shelves and us Prince fans going out and buying and supporting it and loving it, even though we know years later, it wasn't the members of the time actually playing on that. It was Prince and then Morris on the drums for most of it. And then you had Dr. Fink over here, you had Lisa over there, you had this person, that person. To see, or to kind of have the sonic evolution of that, because you get that with a lot of deluxe versions anyway. If it's whoever, the Beatles, or whether it's Bob Dylan, whoever. But you get that with, this is take 1 of the track, this is take 2 of the track, this is take 25 of the track, and you see it evolve from, this is how it got from here to here. And then you have the original album, which has the finished final version of it, and the decisions that led to that being the final, the final version on that album. So to see, this is the first protege act, and this is how this was created. So to have, Prince's original vocals as bonus tracks, whatever they had for Alexander O'Neal, to see like, what would that have been like if he was the lead singer of the time, if he, if the negotiations did work out, and then it would have been him on the lead vocals and Morris just on the drums. What would that have been like? How would that have worked? And like I said, just the context and just the interest for Prince fans to see like, how this is how it was done. And then you've got that, then you have the liner notes, which tells the story of how this came to be. Because definitely What Time Is It is going to be a different story. Because that album solidified sort of the time, or, Morris Day and the time mythology. This is like the definitive Morris Day and the time with What Time Is It? The first album is more, here's this cool little hip band, they funky, and then they're competing with, other things that was going on at the time, like Kid Creole and the Coconuts and the Bus Boys, groups like that, competing with that, sort of black bands that kind of had that one foot in kind of little quasi new wave punk styles, and then kind of translate into being funky as hell. And then this template set the stage for, you know, bands like Fishbone to come along. So where you had that kind of quirky, you know, rock and ska and punk and new wave and funk and rock and all that melding together. You know, that album was the template for that. Where What Time Is It? It was an extension, but it also defined what Morris Day and the Time should really look and sound with that. So yeah, I think this would be a great idea if you were to do a deluxe version of that. And again, if you're going to do a deluxe, include a Time CD and or DVD from a tour supporting that album. I know there's footage of them from the playing the Capitol Theater. I know they had this thing where I think they filmed concerts for closed circuit viewing or cable access or local cable access or whatever. But there is footage that's on YouTube that exists, and yeah, they're in support of the first album, so you only hear tracks from that album. It's shot professionally, even though it's in black and white. And I don't think this place had like the best video quality in the world. I don't know. Maybe this might just be a second generation copy that we're viewing on YouTube, and maybe somewhere the actual master films or the actual negatives exist, or the original video exists that can be cleaned up and, you know, retouched, or maybe even put out in color or whatever. I don't know. But to have something like that included, because again, it all connects the dots. This would be the perfect deluxe edition. Like I said, you couldn't duplicate it really with What Time Is It? You can do some other things with it, and the DVD would be a lot better because there is better footage available for that tour that you can include if there aren't a lot of bonus tracks that you can include. But this would be just a great little, again, deluxe edition, bonus tracks, DVD, and to see the finished product, you know, to see the end result. Because again, you know, you have these guys, at least with this album, you have the 6 guys on the cover, and they have to go out and represent on television, on concert stages, you name it, and they delivered and then some. So to kind of, again, see it go kind of virtually from Prince's brain to live concept, you know, this would be a fascinating journey, and it would be a fascinating virtual journey because, you know, unless somebody does a straight up documentary on the time, which I would like to see, and if I had the money, I damn sure produce that. So, but until we get something like that, I think the next best, or even a more interesting way of kind of encapsulating that history would be to do a deluxe version, at least if nothing else, of this first album, to where you see Prince's genius. And for a lot of people that aren't deep cut Prince fans, or they only know of Prince, they know about the time, but not really, to see like, oh, he put this together and this is how he put it together. Damn, that's genius. You know, and it puts everybody in its proper perspective, you know. So I think that would work. And again, you know, have the liner note booklet, involve everyone that participated in the recording of the album, as well as the original members of the time. You know, get something in there about what their thoughts were as it was unfolding. as it was happening. That would, to me, that would work. And that's really what Rhino should have done with it. Or at least that's what my personal view. Any variation on those themes would have worked much better than this. And, again, like I said, I love this vinyl. So by all means, go out, support it, go buy it. Like I said, if we're going to get something better with What Time Is It, then that's going to be based on the success of this vinyl. So definitely go get it's definitely worth the listen. Like I said, I've been ragging on the packaging and what should have been done, the behind the scenes drama with it and everything. And again, my personal viewpoint as not only a fan of Prince, but as a fan of the time, this is what we got. And I'm grateful. Like I said, I've got my complaints, but I'm definitely grateful that this reissue is among my collection. And it's been a cool little month because of that previous record store day. Didn't see anything for this current one that was on Saturday that really jumped out at me that I wanted. But just coming off of the last record store day with The Truth, Fela Kuti's Open and Close album, Donny Hathaway Live, that album, those three, that was kind of unexpected to get, because I had the time pre-order long before I decided I was going to get anything for Record Store Day, or I think even before The Truth was announced too, if I'm not mistaken. But it's nice to kind of have that as among the latest acquisitions of it. And like I said, it sounds great. Even on my little sound design set here, it sounds great. It is remastered for streaming. So again, support that expanded edition on streaming. If you don't have access to a turntable or anything, or you're not a fan of vinyl, but support it, because like I said, it'll mean that we'll get more stuff like this from the time, and hopefully better for it. So what's most important is, what do you think? Have you had a chance to check it out? The vinyl itself, the red and the white vinyl. Again, I don't know. I'm, maybe just because I'm just old school this way, and it's just like I'm just used to vinyl just being black vinyl. The Truth was black vinyl, but I did manage to acquire the Rainbow Children on vinyl, and Chaos and Disorder on vinyl also. And, with the purple vinyl, it's cool. It's cool. That, to me, it works a little bit. I don't think it works for every single Prince album, but, since it's the theme they're going with, it's not bad. So, I don't know. It didn't affect my enjoyment of listening to the time with the red and the white vinyl. So, I guess it works. It looks good. If you see the in-show graphic, it looks good. So, that's a pretty cool choice on it. But again, what do you think? Did you get the vinyl? Are you planning on getting the vinyl? Or have you listened to it on streaming yet? Let me know your thoughts. Leave me a comment and just let me know what you think. And that is going to end this episode of Amari Purple Talk. Thanks once again for tuning in. And continue to support this show, support the Amari Communications website, amaricommunications.com. Also, Amari Communications channel on YouTube. So please go out, support, buy some Amari Purple Talk t-shirts, other Amari Communications merchandise, and help keep this show going. That way, help me get this webcam stuff together too, so I can give you better video quality as well on certain projects. So until next week, you know what to do. which is to be safe, take care of one another, stay positive, stay upbeat, but most important, create your day, create your life, keep it purple, and on.